So you can guess which book of the Bible church fathers hated and Luther hated. If you're a Lutheran, pay careful attention. If you're a Lutheran following Luther, be careful. Because Luther said of the book of Revelation, it's not a Christian book. There's nothing in there about Christ. Now, in his later days, I think he modified that a bit, but he's on record saying the book of Revelation, which is only 450 allusions and quotations of the Old Testament prophets, by the way, and it's said to be by Jesus. It's the message that God gave to Jesus. So if you're attacking the book of Revelation, you're attacking Jesus flat out, yet claiming to be a good believer. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So you can tell then which verse, which chapter in the book of Revelation would be the chapter that is least popular. It would be Revelation 20, which says that for 1,000 years, the saints and Jesus are going to rule the world. The devil will be bound. Oh, note that. The devil is out of it. So what book does the devil hate? The book of Revelation, of course, and the millennial passage there. So one of the commentaries on the book of Revelation says, more confusion and chaos has come from the book of Revelation chapter 20 than any other chapter in the Bible. I quote, these 3 verses in Revelation 20, talking about the saints ruling the world with Messiah, have caused more confusion than any other in this book of Revelation, and their interpretation by 2nd and 3rd century millennialists were the reason why quite a few bishops and synods and church councils in Eastern churches did not want to include the book of Revelation. They want to get rid of the whole thing. That simply tells you that people unconverted hate the idea of God winning through Jesus. Isn't that amazing? They hated that book. That's what you're up against. The Church of Christ were persuaded that that millennial kingdom began at the cross. This comes from Augustine, by the way. Augustine, who was a very troubled person. And he said the cross was the moment at which the 1,000 years began. Well, you ask your friend, do you really think you're ruling the world now? Good luck to you. Try ruling the world. Jesus didn't even have a place to put his head. Paul said, some of you think you're ruling the world now. Paul was way ahead of his time. He came against these errors in the 1st century. Some people say the resurrection has already happened. What? You just did away with the whole plan. So you are going to have a battle, an uphill battle, in explaining these points that we're making today. The great commentary by somebody called Charles found this text in Revelation 20, beginning with 20 verse 4 to the end of Revelation, so confusing that he theorized that John must have died before writing that. You're smiling. This is the top man in the field. John must have died before writing that. Unfortunately, said Charles, this disciple produced an ending full of confusion and contradiction. Do you hear that? And John couldn't have written it. Well, he didn't tell us that the book is actually by Jesus. And the book of Revelation says if you take away from the book of Revelation, you're going to be under a curse. These are not small deals. I think my sloppy British approach to life, we muddle through, we all get there, we're all good chaps anyway. I don't think that's going to work. God is a very legal person. He wants this done right. So it was written by somebody after John died. It was a faithful but unintelligent disciple of John who wrote Revelation 20. That's what they said. You have to fight this now. The devil is very activist. Unless you are as activist as the devil, the truth goes under all the time, unfortunately.